With just under 3 months to Election Day, 5 states held primaries Tuesday. Voters in Arizona, Kansas, Michigan, Missouri, and Washington headed to the polls, many opting for mail-in voting due to coronavirus concerns. Meanwhile, after raising unfounded doubts about voting by mail over the past few weeks, the president seems to be reversing his position, but only for people in one state. In a tweet Tuesday, Mr. Trump said, quote, "Whether you call it vote by mail or absentee voting, in Florida, the election system is safe and secure, tried and true." David Weigel joins me now. He is a national reporter covering politics for the Washington Post. Dave, welcome. Great to have you with us. So, President Trump has repeatedly discredited the mail-in voting process. Has he done anything to address this concern in his administration? And why might Florida be his newfound exception?
No, the answer to all those questions is basically no. I mean, this comment was of a piece of everything the president said about mail voting, which isn't coherent. He insists that absentee and mail voting are different processes. In Florida, as people pointed out before today, the state literally refers to all voting like this as mail voting. It doesn't use the word absentee. So you'll see sometimes the president or Bill Barr or someone on the campaign insist that there is a dignity to being out of the state and casting a ballot, as opposed to living there, being there on election day and mailing it in. It's never made a lot of sense. So what you saw today was in Florida, a state where Republicans have long mastered the mail voting system, where they always have an advantage. There's the occasional election the Democrats win where it breaks down, but generally they're always bracing for this pile of Republican mail ballots. He was saying, well, that's different. I think you might see him say the same if the White House gets data, if the campaign gets data saying, we're hurting in Minnesota, we're hurting in Pennsylvania because of you saying this. But the difference in Florida is that you had this system that Republicans used very well, and the party was getting nervous how he kept downplaying it, trashing it as Democrats built their mail program.
Isn't there the danger, though, that just becomes so transparent?
Well, I wonder. This is not something you can prove. This is something you kind of see from the chatter online, from the way campaigns are talking. I have a sense that the president, in talking so much about this, has elevated the salience of mail voting, the rules, how to do it, for a lot of Democrats. Now, for a lot of Republicans, too, but generally what we've seen from Republicans and heard from local parties is that their voters are more and more suspicious of mail voting, period. What we've heard from Democrats is that they want to know their options, they're looking them up, and they're worried about things they've heard, failures like we saw in New York, which luckily, I mean, we've had a number of primaries since the pandemic began. New York was a special case in screwing up a key part of the process where post offices were stamping ballots to prove they were received on a certain day. Absent that, Democrats have been worried about people not signing the ballots, not being familiar with the rules. And every day the president talks about it, they have another opening to discuss this. And if you watch local news in some states, they often have an expert on to talk about how the process is going to work for you. Just normal kind of not human interest, but consumer rights reporting almost. So I'm not sure the president's doing himself much good in talking about this.
Right. I have to say that's one issue that hits home. That New York district that's still counting the ballots is my own, and I am one of those mail-in ballots, so we'll see what happens there. All right, so let's move on to the primaries today. Which ones do you believe are the most consequential for both Democrats and Republicans?
Probably the biggest vote today is Missouri's Medicaid expansion vote. That would be the sixth state to have a ballot measure that expands Medicaid after our Republican legislature didn't want to. But when it comes to the parties, Rashida Tlaib in Detroit won her race when a lot of Democrats thought she'd be a one-term member of Congress. It's a very African-American district. John Conyers represented it for most of his life, literally. And she has one opponent last time, the former Detroit City Council President Brenda Jones, who actually beat her in a special election, lost for the full term. I was in Detroit a couple weeks ago. Tlaib has a very energetic campaign. Jones is coasting a little bit. But demographically, I think that could be tough. And that is a race where if any member of the squad, so-called squad, loses at the moment that they are central to the president's reelection campaign, that's going to have repercussions for both parties. If you go to Kansas,
so what are you expecting in terms of that race? Do you have can you call it, do you think?
I don't know when we'll know all the results from it, because Michigan expanded a lot of its voting rights in the last year after a ballot measure. We're not going to have the full results from the state until Friday. I can imagine a result where somebody's up tonight but can't declare victory. I can imagine somebody declaring victory and the other party saying it wasn't valid. I can imagine the same. I think basically in every state except for Washington, which has all mail voting, has for years, and is kind of used to counting most of the votes on election night, counting the rest as the week goes on. But apart from that, I would point to Kansas's, Senate primary, where Chris Kobach, who's an ally of the president but lost the race for governor, has run a pretty underfunded campaign, kind of a last-ditch campaign, with help from Democrats who run ads promoting him because they think he would be able to lose the seat in November. The other leading Republican nominee, Roger Marshall, former congressman, that he would be a stronger candidate. You have, not super far away, down the highway in St. Louis, Cori Bush, who's running again against William Lacey Clay, a congressman who defeated her in 2018. This is a race where Lacey Clay, having had a challenge that he swept aside pretty easily by 20 points last time, just did not prepare for a different campaign this time. Raised about the same amount of money, ran some ads early on, didn't really start hitting his opponent until the last few weeks in very negative ways. I think noticing that opponent, Cori Bush, had support from PACs, and she'd raised more than 3 times what she did in 2018. So that could be an upset of an incumbent member of Congress, another one of what we've seen this year. And then the rest of the map, you basically have the parties deciding who is going to run in open seats. Most of them safe, a couple of the competitive. But Kansas and Michigan, I think, are where a lot of the action is going to be tonight.
All right, we'll keep a close eye on those. Dave Weigel of the Washington Post, thank you so much.
Thank you.